Ken Walters here from Kenlock Mortgage, and this is the bottom line on mortgages. If it has to do with mortgages, we're going to talk about it here. Okay, so today we're talking about the HST rebate that recently was passed April 1st. This affects Ontario new home buyers. We're going to talk about what the rebate is, some of the things that are influencing that rebate, and who this is really for if it works. Let's get into it. You've heard me talking about this, about the HST rebate and all the different effects. You've got some interesting questions about this. So you get to quarterback this thing. Go ahead. What was your first question?
What is the HST rebate?
Okay, that's actually a really good question, because we say that we're getting an HST rebate, and we all know that HST is 13% here. But what does that mean when you're buying a brand new home? There's going to be HST that the builders are going to be charging on the sale of that home. If you're a first-time home buyer, you can get a rebate, but this isn't just about first-time home buyers. This is specifically geared towards new builds. The government is giving you a rebate. So you buy the home, you get charged the HST, but now you get a rebate to get that money back. And what would likely happen is that the builder is just going to discount the HST off the price of the home, bringing the price of the home down. Ideally, that's what should happen. So, but what is this 13%? Now you'd say, well, obviously it's 13%, but it's not obvious, because what it means is it's 13% rebate up to $1 million. Now you can buy a house up to $1.5 million, and it's still falls under that umbrella. But the maximum that you can get back is $130,000. So there's a cap, and the cap is at $1 million, but it's still applied towards houses of up to 1.5 million. Now, when you go over 1.5 million, it's still applicable, but it's going to be reduced down to an amount of $24,000. It's for new builds only, pre-construction purchases, and there's a time limit on it. Okay, so now this starts April 1st, 2026, and it goes for 1 year to March 31st, 2027. If you buy from a builder a brand new home or a pre-construction. So that's the two types of homes that are going to be available. So if you're buying an inventory home that is currently owned by the builder, it would apply. So long as you make that choice at this point now, after April 1st. Now you buy one of their inventory homes, it's still considered a new build. So we can get HST exemption, which is great for the builders, because this would allow the builders to get rid of much of their stock. On the other hand, it also incentivizes the builders to sell you a brand new home. Now, they have a limit. You have to make this deal. For you as a consumer, you got to make this deal between now and March 31st. But the builder has between December of 2028 to start building the property. Like pre-construction, it could take a couple of years before they actually put a shovel in the ground for the house that you just purchased. But the house has to be completed by December of 2031. Okay, so there's your parameters. You can buy a house, you can get your HST back up to $130,000 for a property that is purchased at $1.5 million or less. You have to make that deal between now and March 31st of 2027. And the house has to start being built between now and December of 2028. And it's got to be ready for you to move in by December 31st of 2031. A couple of things that it doesn't apply to. It doesn't apply to a drastically renovated, home that you purchased from somebody else. It's not for that. This is literally driven directly towards builders.
So like a house across the street that is still owned by the builder is not going to qualify because it wasn't built in the correct time frame?
No.
Because it's already built before.
Yes, already built.
It was built like 4 years ago.
Right, but it's already built, but it's still owned by the builder and is still an inventory home. So technically speaking, it's never been sold. The issue is that it has to start, the construction has to start no later than December 31st of 2028. So it's already built, therefore they started construction well before that time. The issue for that house that's sitting across the street, you have to make the deal to purchase that house, has to be made after April 1st, 2026. So if somebody came in here and decided to buy that house, last month, right? Made the deal March 15th, went firm on it, and away they go. They are not eligible for this, even if they're not planning on moving in for another 3 months. They're not going to be eligible for this. Right now, because that's owned by the builder, it's a new build. It's not pre-construction, but it's a new build. So you could make the deal right now and get the full rebate. The question is the builder now going to reduce the price of the home? Because they've got a sale price of the home that includes HST. So now this person is going to get over $100,000 back on the value of that property. So that, in effect, lowers the price of the house. The question is that has the builder already dropped the price substantially to try and sell in this market? And if they have, what's stopping the builder from saying, well, my original price was, $100,000 more than I had it set right now. So they take that house that they've currently got listed at $900,000, and they say, well, you're going to get a rebate anyways. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to sell you this house for what I expected to sell it for at $1 million. And hey, lucky for you, you're going to actually pick it up for $870,000, which is still better than the $900,000 I was offering it last week. Now, that's not the way this was supposed to work. The way it was supposed to work was that you are sitting with a $900,000 property out on the market right now. Well, then you should give back the $110,000 worth of rebate that the government's now offering on the sale of the property. The person who's going to definitely benefit from this, no matter what, is the builder. The builder can sell the house for lower, and they've sold the house. Good for them. They could increase the price of the house. It's still below market value, like current market value. They sell the house, and they're recouping some of the losses that they've taken in holding that house because it wasn't they weren't able to sell it, or they're recouping some of the losses that they've incurred because the market's dropped, right? So either way, this definitely helps the builder. It's more than likely going to help the consumer, but we don't know how much it's going to help the consumer. What else do you want to know?
Why would they make an incentive to get you to build a new home when there are so many existing brand new homes sitting unoccupied?
Our view of this is a little skewed because we were recently looking for homes, and since we were looking for homes, we saw a lot of subdivisions where they had empty houses, and we see builders selling inventory. And so to us, it looks like there's a lot of homes out there. By and large, there are not a lot of homes out there. And you might say, like, well, if there's not a lot of homes out there, like, why are all these homes sitting empty when we say that people need houses? And the problem is that it doesn't matter how many houses you have. The question is, how many houses do you have that people can afford? And the way prices are right now, people can't afford it. They can't afford it because the wages to purchase a home these days are somewhere between 8 and 10 times the average individual's income. In some cases, you're 8 to 10 times average family income. So the idea of saving in such an inflationary environment, really, really hard. So if people can't come up with the down payment, how are they going to buy a house? Ergo, we sit in this environment where houses are sitting and people are trying to sell, but it's not really happening. It doesn't mean that no houses are being sold anywhere. It just means that there is an entire segment of the population that is not entering the market. So yeah, some people are selling houses and buying other houses, so transactions are still happening. But we're missing a big segment of the market because there's a lot of people out there that just simply can't enter the market. That decreases our demand substantially. Then you've got houses out there that are just sitting dormant. So why would the government, to your point, to your question, why would the government offer something that literally incentivizes builders to go out and build even more homes? If the builder is able to decrease the price of the home, then all other homes around that home will also lower in value. So for example, if let's use our example again. The house across the street sells for less and we want to sell our house. Well, then we're going to have to lower the price of our house in order to sell ours before they sell theirs, right? So now we just moved here, so we're not looking to sell. But what about all the other houses that we've seen that are up for power of sale? How about all the houses where people purchase pre-construction in these new subdivisions and the market fell out and they weren't able to maintain? So now those houses are up for power of sale. Or the people who are barely hanging on, they're holding on to a house that they took possession on and they're barely hanging on and they would love nothing more than to just simply sell that house. Now the builder is offering a house directly from the builder at a price lower than somebody who's trying to sell a house that is essentially brand new, but they've already taken possession. You might be thinking to yourself, well, why does it matter between the brand new house from the builder or the house that somebody already took possession of? Well, consider this. They took possession of the house 2 years ago. There's a 7-year carry-on warranty on the property, which means the first 2 years of the warranty are now done. Whereas you buy that house from the builder, it's essentially a brand new build and the carry-on warranty starts right now. So that house is worth more. It has a warranty attached to it. If you're comparing apples to apples, like two houses, nothing's been done to them. They're both basically brand new, never been lived in, but one carries a carry-on warranty, the other one doesn't. And they're lowering the price on that house. Well, if that's the case, then why would you pay more for a house that has less of a warranty? You wouldn't. And that leaves those people who are up for power of sale or barely hanging on. It puts them in only one position. Lower the price if you want to sell your house faster than the builder's going to sell his. So, and the builder, well, the builder's got an advantage. They've got the rebate. So now that house has to go down in price. Whichever way you cut it, that property value is going to go down, which means the power of sale or the person who's barely holding on, they need to drop their price too. Or they're just sitting and holding while the rest of the market continues to drop. They're better off selling today than they are waiting until tomorrow, because if they can't hold on, then they end up in a power of sale. To your question, like, why are they doing this? Because you drop all the prices, incentivize people to get back into the market, and then you need more houses to be built, which is exactly what they're trying to do, is spur the economy right now and get people back to work building houses. You build one house, you're putting hundreds of people back to work. So that being the case, it makes sense that we start incentivizing the building industry. We start building, we start growing our GDP, that's gross domestic product, okay, which means the amount of production that we have, right? We increase everybody's production, improves our economy, and that is good for Ontario. They're doing it as a boost to the economy. To give you an example, and I'm looking at a chart here that shows that we are seeing new construction in single-family homes has fallen to levels that we haven't seen since, 1995, 1996, right? That's the last time that we saw production levels this low, okay? And I think we recall that was in the wake of the 1989, 1990 housing bubble crash. Let's just say it's par for the course. In this chart, we're seeing there's a good likelihood of prices being pushed upward once demand returns, but there's no demand if people don't have jobs and people aren't making money. So we need both things to happen. So what happens when we start incentivizing people to buy new homes? Well, that means we've got people producing, and if we've got people producing, we're getting more jobs. If we're getting more jobs, then we've got an opportunity to increase demand. So that's why the government is looking to create this incentive, and it's specifically directed towards new builds.
So it's going to fix our entire economy. Perfect.
Yeah. That's it. The government, our government is so fantastic and so brilliant that they've come up with the key. Like, for sure, this is absolutely going to do it. Or the builders are going to take a nice kickback, and the economy is going to stay relatively stagnant because the only thing they're going to do is sell off their inventory. But I mean, that's just being pessimistic.
If builders know that you're going to get a rebate, wouldn't they just increase the price of the house?
Well, as I mentioned, they might do that. There's a good chance that they can do it. We haven't seen what's going to happen yet. We're going to have to see what happens to prices across the board. That's a very large, that's a broad statement, right? And not all builders are going to react the same way. Some builders may not decrease the price of their home because they need that money, especially if they're one of the smaller builders. But if you've got a larger builder that is working on volume, they may choose to lower the price. Absolutely. Get the inventory off their back and move on to selling new property. You're not going to sell new property if you're still trying to sell the old property at a higher amount. So we've yet to see exactly what's going to happen, but yeah, there is a possibility that builders could essentially keep that rebate for themselves, increase the price of the house, give you the rebate. They're just giving you the rebate on a house that's 13% more than they were planning on selling it for in the first place.
Like, that's not helpful to anybody because people aren't buying the houses now because they can't afford it. So if you're going to increase it, it's like you're buying it for the same amount as if there was no rebate. So that's not helping anyone, and it's not helping the builders, that's for sure, because they're not going to sell the house.
Well, that's exactly it. And keeping in mind that real estate is regional. So this applies all the way across Ontario. So if you're in an area where housing prices are relatively stable, and you could be in a hamlet or an area that real estate prices have already dropped as much as they're going to, and they're actively trading. Well, if they start building houses in that area, then they can essentially mark up the price of the house to sell at the reasonable price of housing in that area. Yes, that's an accusatory question, but it's also a reasonable statement. What's next?
Everything is getting more expensive, like gas, food, and so while everything else is getting more expensive, is a rebate even really going to matter?
Yes and no. It matters because right now there's a little bit of a shift happening in the economy. Even in spite of the war that's going on, that's causing a lot of that inflation that you're talking about, there is a little bit of a shift in consumer confidence. This was a chart from the Conference Board of Canada and CFIB, the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. Right, business confidence is rebounding while consumers remain cautious, but the gap often closes as sentiment improves. If consumer confidence follows, it could translate into buyers re-entering the market and a pickup in home sales. And what they're getting at here is that businesses are already feeling more confident. And if businesses are feeling more confident, there's a little bit of a correlation that there's a good likelihood that we're going to see consumers getting more confident as well. Please excuse my dog. There's a correlation that we could see consumers getting more confident as well. And then you add the government coming along with this fantastic carrot of buying a brand new home, which would further spur the economy, create employment. And I mean, when you start putting that, now we've got a perfect storm going in the right direction. This is just a great time. According to this chart, what we're seeing is this is great timing on the part of the government to provide a carrot to incentivize people to get back into the market in that sense, in terms of new homes. And if you're buying new homes, then you're putting people to work, which is creating employment. And if you're doing all of these things, then we are starting to get the economy moving again, and that's good for everybody. So yeah, I mean, there is an issue, okay? But there's another issue. This is a chart that came out from my Gas Buddy showing the increased price of gas. Now, this doesn't actually reflect what we've seen in the last week or so, but in the last week or so, we've seen a result of the war in Iran skyrocketing gas prices to $2 a liter. You got to keep in mind when you do that, and by the way, it's $2 a liter for what we're like 1.8, 1.9 for regular. You're over 2 for super. But what's really, really important here is the cost of diesel. So diesel fuel is sitting at around 2.2 okay, per liter, and that's a problem because diesel is used in everything. It's going to affect your food prices. It's going to affect anything that you're getting delivered. It comes on a truck. It's moved by a train, and that means that the cost of trains and planes and trucks are going up. And everything that you get comes on a plane, a train, or a truck, or a ship. Okay? And the point is that, you know, the increase in fuel cost is going to create some additional inflation. And then just consider this: if you have a job to go to, and you also have to pay to fuel up your car to get to that job, as we get into a period of time where we've got employers telling employees that it's time for them to get back to work. Now we've added in that daily grind, and on top of that, an increase in cost. And so, does a HST rebate, is that really going to affect the average person when the cost of everything else is still going up? And I think you're right. It's not going to suddenly make people, you know, throw their hats in the air and say, oh my God, we're going out to buy a house. But what it does affect is those people who were on the verge, who maybe were thinking about it but weren't quite ready. This could spur those folks into making that move. And because there's a limited time on this offer as well, right? It's only 1 year. So if you were planning on it, if you were thinking about buying a house, then in the next year, if you choose to do this, then that works for you. Now, what it doesn't work for is, what if you're a young family, children on the way, and you need more room, and you need it now? If that's the case, then buying a pre-construction that's going to be ready in 3 years, it's not going to work for you. But spurring the economy along is also a good idea, because in this process, like I mentioned, it would also ideally force housing prices down. And if you're forcing housing prices down generally, then you are helping out even that first-time home buyer that's not going to buy a brand new build. There's an opportunity there. But if you check that chart, the rising gas prices, keep in mind that rising gas prices will actually accentuate inflation even further. So you're absolutely right. Are things getting more costly? They are. Is this going to incentivize people to suddenly go out and buy houses? Yet to be seen. We'll have to see how much that inflation hits. And we also have to see how long this war lasts for. Because if the war lasts for longer than 3 months, this inflation starts getting embedded.
So the government wants people to buy brand new homes, and inflation makes it hard for people to buy homes at all. And who is this for? Who are they expecting to buy these homes and utilize the rebate?
I got a chart for that from Statistics Canada, and what it's showing is that the largest group of people by age are people ages 25 to 39. This is the biggest part of our population, and they are in their first time home buying years. So who's this geared towards? Ideally, it should be geared towards them. What's really sad is we live in a world where first time home buying, sadly, that it goes all the way up to 40 years old. Okay? I mean, that in and of itself sucks, and it says something about the way our country is producing. The point being that you've got this large cohort of people 25 to 39 that are ready to buy houses. Who's this geared towards? Absolutely, it's geared towards them. All we hear these days on YouTube channels and podcasts, especially when we're talking about realtors, you know, you hear we've got all this pent up demand. And I think what they really mean is we have a lot of population. There's a possibility for demand, for sure, but there's only a possibility of demand when people have money. So to your point, if we've got all this inflation, then who's going to buy the house? Even if you give them a rebate, you're 100% right. I can give you all the discount I want. If you don't have a job and you don't have money, then you don't have a job and you don't have a down payment, you're not getting a house. It's that simple. So first of all, you have to have the ability to save, which is going to be very difficult with inflation the way it is. Okay, and you have to have the ability to even make some money in the first place. So if you don't have a job, then you're not making money, and if you ain't making money, you ain't saving any. So who is this for? Well, but here's the flip side to that same argument. If we could get some people who are ready to buy houses to jump into the market, and if we get them to do that on the side of new builds, we're going to do two things. We're lowering the prices so that more people could be at that point where they could jump into the market. And we're increasing employment by creating jobs. Because if you put the builders back to work, you're putting a lot of people back to work. If you think of it from that perspective, this is yes, the incentive is there. And if it works the way I believe it was intended, which is to spur the economy, then you've got builders getting back to building, which means they're employing more people. And if they're employing more people, we've got jobs being created. Because it's not just the builder, it's not just the guy that hammers the nail. It's the people who manufacture the wood and the nails and the shingles and the appliances and make the carpets and distribute. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, our whole economy gets affected when people start building houses. So is it the right thing to do? I would say it's a great thing that our government has done. Politics aside, it's a great thing. Let's see if it works, because we're still a market economy and we still expect the market to react to the incentive. So that's yet to be seen. And there are many other factors that could work against this. Like I said, if the war were to last for a long period of time, that's going to cause some additional problems. But who is it for? It would appear that this is really geared towards that 25 to 39 year old age group, and possibly giving them an opportunity to get back into the market. And that is the bottom line on mortgages. Hey, listen, if you liked what we were talking about today, and we're going to try to keep as much of this current as possible, please like and subscribe to the channel. We'll keep bringing it back every week. Nikki's always got a question for me. Thanks.